Yes, ma'am.
Yes, thank you, Ms. Kasich. As a 35-year educator in our great public school system here in Ohio, what would you see needs to be done to correct what I consider the big lie that the public schools are failing? What do you see is the failure of the public school system?
Well, I think by and large that we would, ma'am, here's the problem. We have a third of our graduates going to college and they end up in remedial programs, which means that they weren't prepared to go to college. We are finding that U.S. students are testing 20th and 24th in the world in math and science. And if that continues, America will lose its wealth. Now, I think we have a fundamental problem with public education today. And do I think it can be fixed? The answer is yes. Do I think we have a lot of hard-working, dedicated teachers? I think the answer is yes. But what would I do? What would be my vision, some of my vision for what I do with public education? Number one, I would test kids to global standards. I don't think what we can do is lower the standards for our state and then say our kids are doing well when a third of them that are going to college can't have to be in remedial programs. I believe in testing, and I also believe that we should make sure that our teachers are qualified. In Massachusetts, they test them as they get ready to enter the profession. I think that makes sense as well. But I also think that the money that we give to our schools should follow the student. It shouldn't follow the building. Yes. Why do I say that? Because if the money follows the student, then the principal of your school is in charge, and you will be in charge of your classroom. And I think that's a great thing. I mean, if I'm going to hire you to be a teacher, I'm going to give you the tools, the flexibility to go out there and be a good teacher. And I don't want the money to go to buildings. I don't want Columbus telling us how many nurses we have to have, or psychologists, or any of this other stuff. I want the decision to be made by principals and teachers. If a teacher's doing a good job, I want to give them more money. If a teacher's doing a bad job, I don't want them to be in the classroom. Now, let me also tell you, teachers are in a difficult position today. What we're finding is that students learn in different ways. Some kids have an analytical capacity. They can do numbers and they do great in math. Other people learn with word pictures. Other people learn to solve problems by working through things verbally. I mean, there's all kinds of ways that kids learn. And what we do is we take all of our kids and we put them in a classroom and we say we're going to standardize all the teaching. So every kid has to learn the same way. Well, that doesn't serve us.
That's right.
So I believe in this age of technology, I think it's going to be very, very possible to supplement kids' education in the classroom with online education that's going to give kids a chance to learn the way they learn best at the time in which, with the time that it takes them to learn. And so we're looking at what I think is a significant departure from the way we do it today. I also think that if you have a big school, big urban district, and kids are leaving, which they are in many of our urban areas, these schools have fixed costs. So they got fixed costs and less students and more money. Well, let's give those schools the waivers and the flexibility to be able to deal with the loss of students and the problem that they have with fixed costs, so we can manage all this. So, and I also think that the values of the school ought to reflect the values at home. Now, if we can pay teachers more on the basis of merit, if we can make sure that our kids are learning through proper testing, if we can make sure that our teachers are qualified to teach, and if in fact we can direct the money towards the student, I think we can begin to drive excellence. And we can end some of the confusion and some of the chaos that exists in the classroom. So I think there are a lot of very dedicated people in education, but I think sometimes the system doesn't work the way that a teacher would like it to work. I'll give you one illustration of this. If you and I are in an Indianapolis car race and we have a bad car, and people keep yelling at us to go faster and faster and faster, but we don't have the tools to go faster, we get frustrated. And when we tell teachers do a better and better and better job, but then we take authority from them, or don't give them the money in their classroom, and instead it's in a bunch of bureaucracy out there, and the teachers don't have the flexibility to introduce new items into the classroom, you can't get the job done. It becomes frustrating. So I'm for a lot of change in this. By the way, I also support school choice. I support vouchers. Because I think it will help us to get the reform in the public school that we need. So I'm sure a lot of that isn't music to your ears, but it's kind of the way I see things. And I think we can fix the public school system. It's critical that we do, and we've got to make it the best system in the world.
May I ask one follow-up
Sure,
question,
sure.
please? If you say that you would like to see kids tested to global standards, and you believe in the testing, then it seems like it's kind of the opposite of what you're telling, that you would like to see a classroom to be teaching to the child's learning style, what we might call the multiple intelligences. So how would you test a child by global standards here in the United States when we have, in our society, such an open, welcoming society where we welcome all children to the public schools, where, say for instance, in Japan, there is a split off there of children's abilities, and that's why at one time Japan had the highest rate of suicides of teenagers who were expected to have such high standards and they couldn't accomplish it. So I don't quite understand.
Well, no, I got to tell you, ma'am, if you don't know how to read, write, and add in the 21st century and compute, you're not going to make it as a person. You're going to have a hard time making a decent income. And when we compare our kids in the 8th grade, the 9th grade, the 10th grade, we are not competing with a number of other countries. I mentioned 24 in math and 20 in science. What we have to be able to do, though, is to reach our kids individually. It doesn't mean that we're not going to expect them to be able to read, write, and add. I mean, when they graduate from high school or they graduate from college, if they can't write a paragraph, which many of them today, many kids go in, they come from very good schools and they go to work in business and they can't write. Okay? If you can't write, you can't make it. So what I'm saying is there's different ways to get them to the same point. The reason why we need to test them is we need to test them because we need to make sure that we are doing a good assessment of them, so we're not letting them fall behind and pushing them from one grade to another. Then when they get up there, they realize they missed out on all this stuff and they can't perform. That's not fair to the kid. So I do think we have to assess them. And let me also suggest one other thing. If we're not good in math and science in this country, Google, PayPal, Yahoo, eBay, all these things we read about, if they start getting made in Asia, which more and more of these things are being created over there, we lose our wealth as a country. So what I'm suggesting to you is, yeah, we reach kids in different ways, but at the end, they got to be able to achieve, and they can. And they can be pushed to the top. And I have no doubt we can win this global contest, but we're in one, and we don't recognize it and get our kids there. We're sacrificing their future and our economic future.